Hello. So, as always, I am live on the main page on a Tuesday to answer 2 questions from anybody that has any questions for me. Hang on while I just share this post and see if anyone is around. Let's have a look. So, if anyone is there, say hi so I can see that you're there. And obviously, if anybody has any questions at all to ask, please do ask me. Let's have a look. Hello. Oh, I have to ignore me. Turn that down. I can hear myself on the other phone. So has anyone got any questions? Let's have a look. Post. Oh, there's a few people there now. I'm just trying to share on here. I'm going to answer a couple of questions. So if you've got any questions, please do let me know. You can ask me questions, anything at all you want, anything at all to do with mental health. Well, you can ask me anything at all that you want, really, but anything at all. Hello, lovely. Anything at all that you want, any questions you've got that you might want to ask. Why do I keep running out of shop? Do you know, I'm going to laugh now. It's not funny. Let me tell you, when you say running out of shops, do you mean you feel like you've got to get out of shops? Because you know what my instant thought was then when you said that, which is interesting. I thought you were joking and like saying it like running out of shops to buy stuff because you like buying clothes, because that's what I'd be thinking. Like sometimes if I'm going shopping in the Trafford Centre and I've been in there a while and then I can't find what I want, I'm like, I'm running out of shops. So yeah, do you mean that you're going in places, Judy, and then when you get there you're feeling, I don't know, panicked or feeling like you have to get out of there? Okay, right. So I'll start off with this question, and if anyone else has a question, so pop online every Tuesday now to answer a couple of questions. So, oh yes, please, Melanie. If you want, I think I might have it here. Actually, I might be able to share it too. I can maybe try and do it. So, okay. If you're getting an overwhelming sense, Judy, that you have to run away from somewhere, what's happened is your fight or flight system has kicked in. Now, as you probably have heard, people talk about fight or flight, and when we're talking about fight or flight, we're talking about your body doing what it needs to do in order to get you ready to run away from a tiger or run away from danger, to prepare yourself to either fight or flight. And the way that we set that off is we send a message through our thinking to a part of our brain called the lizard, well, it's like known as the lizard part of the brain. It's the really, really primal, caveman type part of our brain that's not that bright. It's just very much deals with the here and now in the moment of, right, okay, we've got a panic, what do we do? It's also the part of your brain that regulates your heart rate, your temperature and that sort of stuff. So if you go into a shop and even start to have the slightest thoughts around, oh, what if I had to run out of here? What if it's not safe in here? And you start to have habitual thinking about it, telling your brain that it's not safe, your brain, that part of your brain that regulates all of that stuff, is not capable enough of going, come on, Judy, you know it's safe in here, it's okay. It doesn't rationalise like that. All it does is deal with what you're giving it. It only deals with the information that you're feeding into it. And you're feeding into it that there's some sort of problem or danger, that you might need to run away. So what's happening then is you're probably then getting, this is sort of like the slower version, but you're probably getting symptoms like your racing heart, like your temperature, stuff that then you focus on, go, oh my God, I don't feel great, I need to get out of here. So it's like a vicious cycle. And a lot of that is habitual. So sometimes people get into such a habit in certain places with their thinking that you might not even be consciously aware that you're going, oh, it's not safe in here, what if I need to run away? But the fact that you've asked me the question, why do I keep running out of shops, is that I can tell there's already a pattern developing that you're not great in shops, that you might need to run out, why are you doing that? And then that's what's perpetuating the cycle, because you then develop a load of anxious thinking about entering into shops. So I would say the key for you, Judy, is First of all, to be okay with that. It is what it is. There's nothing dangerous happening. You're not going to come to any harm by running out of the shop. Yeah, it might be frustrating. It might be annoying. You might be beating yourself up thinking, well, why is everybody else not doing this? Well, there's lots of people that will do it. But it's just being accepting of it and realising that even if you go into that shop and you start to feel uncomfortable, so that discomfort that comes up because of those thoughts about, I need to get out of here, if you just stay with that, it won't last very long at all. But what happens is often people respond to it really quickly because they panic and they don't understand it. And you'll run out of the shop, then you'll beat yourself up for being out of the shop, wonder why you can't stay in the shop, and tell yourself all sorts of stories about how you are, how you should be, and what's wrong with you. And there's nothing wrong with you. There is nothing wrong with you. All that's happening is you are going into a shop and you've got into a habit of overthinking and a habitual pattern based around what if I run away? And then what's happening is you're having the symptoms and so then you're running away. It's not the end of the world, honestly. And I say, I know it might feel like the end of the world for you in that moment, but the bigger a deal you make of it and the more you see it as a problem, the worse it will become. Like, it's okay, it's just a habit. And so even with that little bit of understanding that I've just given to you then, you will see it differently next time you go into a shop. You may well notice that you're having thoughts before you even get there. Oh, what if it happens again? This happened last time. This always happens. All of these stories that you create about yourself, when actually you could probably in your lifetime not even begin to count the amount of times you've been in a shop and not ran away. But we tend to focus on, well, the last time I did or the few times before I did, and you're focusing on that. So it's purely a habit, and that's what all of this is. All of anxiety is all the feelings of anxiety and fight or flight and running away, whether it be a panic attack or just anxious thinking, comes from anxious feelings comes from our thinking. 100% of the time, no exceptions. But then the cycle continues because people then have physical symptoms, because when you're sending messages to that lizard part of your brain to say, I'm in danger, it just reacts as though you're in serious danger, even though you're not. It reacts like it is. So it's working exactly how it should. And in a way, you know, I know people absolutely hate feeling anxious and have a real thing about not wanting to, but in some ways it shows your system's working correctly. And if you were in any real danger, you'd be great and you'd manage it absolutely brilliantly and your adrenaline would kick in. But unfortunately, what's happening with a lot of people who are feeling panic and anxiety is that system, what I like to call like their own internal emergency 999 system, is being kick-started constantly for no reason. We all have the beginning of panic attacks all the time. So, for example, if someone slams a door shut really loud and you jump and you're startled, that's the beginning of a panic attack. But what happens is you'll go, oh, it's just the door, and you'll leave that thought alone and you'll just carry on doing whatever you're doing. Whereas if you didn't know it was the door, you're like, what was it? Was there somebody upstairs? Is there somebody breaking into the house? And then you carried on thinking, then those feelings of panic would stay for longer. And the only thing that would keep them there longer is your thoughts keeping them there and holding on to them. So in answer to your question, in a long-winded way there, Judy, is you'll be running out of shops because you're feeling panicked because you've habitually started to believe that that's what you're going to do. And it's about you understanding and knowing that you are safe and you are okay. And if you feel discomfort, to know it's not harmful to you. It's just a sensation, albeit not very nice and not very pleasant, but it's still just a sensation and it's perfectly harmless. In fact, it's exactly what should be happening to your body. So I hope that answers your question. Has anyone else got another question for me that they would like me to answer? I'm just having a look on here because it doesn't seem to be showing me any of the comments. Let's have a look if I can find. I'll hang on a sec and see if anybody else has a question for me to answer. Oh no, that's an old one. How are we all? Let's have a look. No problem, Judy. I hope that helps. I know sometimes I'm really conscious that I'll say it like it's very matter of fact. I know it's really simple and I get it. Like I've ran out of places many, many times myself. And I get that it's uncomfortable and it's not nice and we can beat ourselves up for it. But it really is that straightforward, and it really is that harmless. It's just that you need to see it more. So, a huge part of my work with people is helping them explore this stuff gradually over time so that they realise for themselves that it's really quite harmless. Because I can tell you, but when you're in that moment, I also appreciate that it feels very real, because when we're in that state of panic, our clarity of thinking isn't great. And so we just believe every thought that we're having. And the thoughts that we're having is we have to get out of here, or something bad's going to happen, or I'm going to pass out, or I'm going to faint, or something awful's going to happen. I'm going to have a major panic. We start to believe it, although it's not true. So yeah, so I hope that helps. Anyone got any more questions for me? Any questions? Any questions? I'm just checking. There's no questions on here. Go more shopping. Yes, go more shop. Yeah, go shopping. Or don't go shopping. Don't force yourself. Don't feel that you've got to force yourself into doing things more because, you know, that might help you feel a bit better, etc. Don't worry about that. Just do what you need to do. Live your life as, I always kind of say, imagine you didn't feel any anxiety at all. What would you be doing? If that's shopping, go shopping. If that's sitting at home, sit at home. Either is absolutely fine. We're very good at putting pressure on ourselves, aren't we? And massive expectations of how we should be and how we shouldn't be. And that is just a whole load of pressure that we don't need. Let's have a look. Any more questions? I don't know if I've shared this to the right place. I'm not very good with this. Let's have a look. Maybe there. So we're quite high. Is that you, Jackie? Say hi, whoever's there, so I can see who's there. Let's have a look. We've got Judy and Nats. I don't know who's still there. Melanie, let's have a look. Thank you. It's no problem. Let me know, Judy, how you get on the next time you go in a shop. And don't feel like you've got to come and tell me it was all wonderful. Like, I still like to hear if you go and it was exactly the same. You may see something slightly different, but it'd be nice to see what happens. Someone's put there, I'm helping my sister through this, Judy. Yep. The key is, as well, you know, it's if somebody on here is helping a loved one or supporting a loved one, you know, it can be so hard because we want to fix it for them. We want to show them because, you know yourself that being in a shop is harmless and it's fine and you're not in the same state of mind as them at that moment in time, but they really need to see it for themselves. And so the best thing is to point them in the right direction, you know, show them videos like this, show them there's loads of coaches like myself online, you know, let them explore it to see for themselves. Because I can remember, you know, when I was really highly anxious, people were so supportive of me. Hi, Manuel. So supportive of me and really tried to help a lot. But sometimes I just didn't believe a word they said and didn't want to hear it because I was so fixated in my head in that there was something wrong with me and that I was broken when I wasn't, that it doesn't matter what anybody had said to me. It just didn't feel authentic, even though I know that they had my best interests at heart. Hi, Jackie. Okay, and someone said there, I've been through this 2 years ago. I know what you're going through. Yeah, it's awful, isn't it? It's not nice at all. And I suppose that's why I'm so passionate about what I do in my work, is because just to even see people doing stuff that they believe they wouldn't be able to do again or experience again is just so rewarding for me and hopefully for them too. So yes, I'm just waiting to see. I think there's a little bit of delay as to when people are popping up and then when I'm seeing the comments. So apologies if you have already commented and I haven't seen it yet. But I'm just going to hang on for a moment to see if anybody else has got any questions for me whilst I am here. Jackie, oh, it says I'm a top fan. You are a top fan. I'm a top woman. Jackie helps me out in my private members group with admin and stuff. Jackie's also a psychotherapist, trained psychotherapist, and also, oh, bye girls. My daughter's just dropping her friend off. Bye. What was I going to say then? Yeah, and also now works with and has explored the 3 principles for as long as I have. So she's my right-hand woman. So, you know, it's funny when you find out you're a top fan of some sort of site, not, well, I was going to say inappropriate, like not extremely inappropriate, but you know, when it's just a bit like, I don't know, maybe politically incorrect or something like that. And I'm like, shit, I need to need to not be accepting this top fan status of this page. Let's have a look. Okay, so it doesn't look like there's any more questions. We're quite quiet on the question front tonight. I normally get asked loads of questions. Maybe you're all just happy, living life. Judy keeps going to the doctors and all they do is up her tablets. Okay, so it's always a bit of a dodgy subject, this. And I'll tell you why, because I'm not a doctor, so I'm not medically trained on tablets. Okay, Kath, I'm going to come back to your question in a second. So thank you for asking that. I'll come back to it. Yeah, so because I'm not a doctor, so I don't recommend one way or another, and I'm certainly not against or for medication. I'm very open and vocal about the fact that over time I've had medication. I've had antidepressants, I've had beta blockers, I've had Valium. What else have I had? Oh, I've had loads. Particularly when I was in hospital for a month, they really highly medicated me for a month, and it took me a long, long time to come off them before I had my daughter. They do have their place. But to me, all they're doing is sticking a plaster. I mean, actually, they've saved lives for some people. But I also know that there's lots of people. So, for example, some people will get given antidepressants by the doctor, but they will overthink the idea of taking them that much that they'll make them more anxious. So they're not going to be for everybody. So I'd always go on the recommendation of what your doctor says, and I'm saying that as like a disclaimer because I don't, I am not medically trained and don't desire to be. But the only real way you're ever going to get to a place where you feel completely content and to a degree in control of your, destiny, I suppose, or secure in your own knowing is when you understand how all of this stuff works. So, for example, there'll be people in my private coaching group learning this stuff with me who will be on medication. That's fine. I would never, there are programs out there, and I won't mention any names, whereby, because I've tried everything at some point or other, where they say that you need to come off your medication. I would never, ever, ever suggest anybody come off the medication without the advice or recommendation from a doctor. So as far as I'm concerned, you can learn and explore this stuff whether you're on medication or not. But what I do know is that what happens over time, the more you understand about thoughts and how they work. I've had times over the last few years with these 3 principles where I've gone into a bit of a panic and a spiral where historically in my head I would go, I need to go to the doctor, I need some medication, I can't cope with this. And I haven't done that because I trust in my own innate well-being now, and I know that yes, I can get overwhelmed and that it's only ever temporary, so I don't get that same level of panic, and that's the difference. So again, people that are in a situation where they're like, oh, I want to come off my medication but I don't know how, just explore all of this stuff, how thought works, start to understand a bit more about, what even is anxiety, what is depression, and how it all works. And you will just know when it's right to come off your tablets and you'll be fine. But again, don't just come off because you don't want to be on tablets. Like, on the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter. Like, they've got their place anyway. Rachel, I'll keep mine till Thursday. Okay, so yeah, pop it in the group, Rachel. On the post, I've put it in there because I don't think there's that many this week. So yes, keep it till Thursday. So, can you advise about crippling anxiety surrounding premenstrual, possibly perimenopausal issues? Okay. This has always been a bit of an issue for me and lots of other people, and I do get asked about it a lot. Now, when we are hormonal, men get hormonal as well. I think men have men periods. Well, I know my husband does. We all have hormonal changes and imbalances and all the rest of it. But obviously, as women, we have it guaranteed every single month, every single 28 days, 21 days, whatever it is. Now, there's definitely a correlation for me between those symptoms and feeling PMT and feeling anxious. Now, the funny thing about it is that when I was younger, I didn't get anxious around my period. But yet now I do. Since I'd experienced acute anxiety, now I do. And so it's kind of like, well, why did I not, even though I would still get really bad period pains, I would still be really hormonal, I'd be a bit tetchy and agitated, but I didn't get anxious. And the reason is because like anything else, we start to create stories and ideas in our heads that, oh, I'm worse at this time. Now, yes, we feel it in our bodies internally when we're hormonal, of course we do. And it might be that our body has to, work a bit harder to do just the everyday stuff. We find things a bit more difficult. You have to lacking in energy and things like that. Now, with that is going to come some sensations and feeling in your body. And what I used to do is massively overthink that. Why am I feeling like this? Why am I feeling flat? Why am I feeling low? What's going on? And all of that anxious thinking would then create feelings of anxiety. And so even though I do still get like that now when I'm hormonal, it doesn't peak so much to being really, like you say, crippling. It used to be, but that's because I've taken those layers of thought off it. It is what it is. I'm not as capable. I am as capable, but I don't feel as capable. I feel lethargic. I can't be arsed. There's lots of things associated with my energy levels around that time, but I just accept that that's what it is and I don't overthink it. So the anxiety then doesn't become crippling. Because if having periods or being menstrual or perimenopausal was the direct cause of anxiety, then every single woman in the world would be highly anxious, and they're not. It's how we deal with the changes in our body. It's how we deal with the thoughts that come in like, I can't be arsed today, or what if I go to work and I've got really bad period pains? How am I going to manage that? How am I going to deal with it? What if this? What if that? To the point where I would get to the point where even a week before I was due, I'd be like, oh no, I'm due in a week and I know what that means and it's going to mean this and it's going to mean that, and all that anxious thinking would start. No wonder you'd then feel anxious. Kath, if you message me, remind me, there is a really good podcast about these 3 principles directly speaking about the menopause as well. It's a similar sort of a thing. It's more about how we perceive it and how much we overthink the changes in our body and what's going on. And it's, as I say, it's not a direct cause, because otherwise every single one of us, every single female would be anxious. Highly anxious whenever they were premenstrual. Everybody would. Hi, Gail. But we're not. And that's because it's more to do with how we perceive things, how we set ourselves up, what stories we have about how we're going to manage, how we're going to cope, and holding on to those thoughts of feeling lethargic, feeling a bit on edge. And this might sound like really weird, but silly things like, I noticed a pattern about a year ago that every time I was premenstrual, it would come at a time where I'd have a killer hangover. And I realised that I really craved wine when I was hormonal. And I don't know if it was the sugar or that something in that. I wasn't craving the hangover, that is for sure, but I would crave the wine. And then I'd have a hangover, and then obviously part of processing that hangover is your heart racing, and then you're feeling tired, and then you've got pains, and it was just a cycle for me. And I started to realise over time, like, every single time I'm due on, I have I used to end up with a hangover. So again, it's like patterns, isn't it, of, oh, I'm not feeling great. Okay, well, I'll have a drink of wine, and then I'll have 3 drinks of wine. And, we've got patterns that we follow. But the first thing is realising what those patterns are and how you're taking care of yourself or not in those times, and not expecting yourself. It's almost like, again, if you had a young child or a teenager, a pre-teen who hadn't come on their period yet and then suddenly came on their period, you're gonna be a bit compassionate, aren't you? You're gonna be like, well, just look after yourself. Do you want a hot water bottle? Do you need paracetamol? and we'd really take care of them. But yet suddenly it's like, oh, well, you've had it however many months now, you should just get on with it. Like, no, we should still be compassionate with ourselves. We should still take care of ourselves. We should still accept that actually we might not be ourselves at that period of time, and not overthink that, because it's the overthinking of it that creates that absolutely crippling anxiety. Hormones don't directly create anxiety, otherwise we would all have it. Yeah? In Wrexham for the funeral, I'm relaxing at a hotel for tonight. Oh, good. Well, make sure you do relax then, and I hope it goes as well as it can go, and that you can get some nice rest. So yeah, so I hope that helps. I'm sorry for any males watching. We're talking about PMT, but it can actually, it can affect men in a similar way. Okay, thank you. I never know when I'm due on, as I have a coil, so rarely any true periods as such, just a pattern of feeling anxious, very dark thoughts going on, beginning to think it's connected, if that makes sense. Yeah, it may well be, because just because you're not physically having a period doesn't mean you've not got hormonal changes in your body. So, and again, people that experience anxiety tend to become extremely sensitive to the slightest little change or adjustment in their body. I know I certainly am. It's like, oh, what's that? Something's not quite in sync. And, you'll be latching onto that probably. So you will just probably know. And there will be a connection, yeah, but it's about, again, just allowing yourself and knowing that, well, if that's what it is, then so be it. You just be a bit kinder to yourself and try not to overthink it. But it's not directly related, but it certainly causes more cause for thought, I suppose, and it's that thought that then creates the feelings. So, hi Chelsea. So yeah, so bubble bath on the go. Oh, nice. And it's worse with age. Okay, well, some people say it improves with age. Some people say it improves after you've had a child. Some people say, the opposite. And again, I think it's maybe our habitual thinking gets worse with age. For some people, it gets better. For some people, it doesn't. But again, I'm not saying this to say, oh, it's not that, get on with it type of thing. I'm saying it partly to say that don't give up hope that that's the way it has to be, because it doesn't. Because again, if it got worse with age, every single elderly person would be highly anxious. And there's a lot of elderly people out there that don't give a shit about anything, rightfully so. So I think, again, it's patterns and beliefs that we start to tell ourselves, I'm getting worse as I get older. I'm always like this. My mum points out to me sometimes where she's like, you put everything down to your period. I do. I'm like, I'm probably feeling like this because, I'm due. And it's almost like I make it into this big thing that it doesn't necessarily need to be. Some people don't even know that they're having a period. Yeah, and I know we're all built slightly differently and genetically and all of that stuff, but not so different that one of us would be crippled with anxiety and the other not experiencing the same thing. And we're not experiencing it the same because we're experiencing it through our own thinking. So again, I know I'm boring with it, but it comes back to that understanding more about how thought works. Even somebody with a terminal illness can experience it different to somebody else based on their whole perception and their thought process throughout. So everything and anything can be altered in terms of how we see things and how comfortable or uncomfortable and how much we struggle or don't struggle, how much we torture ourselves, how much we set ourselves up and fight what's going on is also a massive part of it. So I hope that helps. Good. I'm glad that makes sense. But yeah, remind me, Kath, there is a podcast just actually on this. We women are psychos. Oh, mum, it's hard to determine whether it's because we're a Jew. Speak for yourself, Gail. I can be sometimes, yeah, definitely hormonal. I think, again, I think certainly for me, if I'm anxious, but I'm not quite seeing that I'm anxious, and there's a lot of anxious thinking going on, sometimes that comes out for me in agitation and frustration. I get short-tempered. I don't really have a temper as such. I'm too laid back, but I will get agitated about things and a bit snappy. But usually that's because I'm anxious or on edge, to be honest. So yeah, so I hope that helps, and I will pop back next Tuesday. And I know there's a couple of people here who are in my private members club who said they will post for Thursday. Rachel, yeah, please do put it on our private group for Thursday. And I'll see you lovely lot on Thursday, and then the rest of you I will see next Tuesday. Bye.